Welcome to the last day of Kartik. Oh, I don't have a translator. I was thinking how to wait for the translator. It was my mistake. I thought it was going to be translated, but now I know it's simultaneously translated, so I don't have to wait to say the next thing, you know. I was in Guangzhou for a week, so you get used to it. Anyway, welcome to the last day of Kartik Vrata. As Sri Radhika Devi Dasi was explaining, it's like humming a little bit. Can we turn it down just so, I mean, it's okay, but so it doesn't hum. Yeah? This is the last 5 days of Kartik, or the special days, Bhishma Panchaka. And it begins on the 11th day of the waxing moon, and it ends on the full moon, which is tonight. And we have successfully performed this vrata. All of you, or whomever of you, have taken some special, what would you call it, vows or promises to Krishna. This is the final night, and tomorrow it'll be unfortunately over. And everybody always says, "Oh man, I can't believe Damodar is already over. We're having so much fun singing in this song and so much fun doing the lamp." But I read in the commentary by Sanatana Goswami, you don't have to stop. You can do it every day of the year. It's not something that's only required one month a year. So on this final night, there are a few points I'd like to bring up. Was anyone here? I gave class. When did I give class here? 2 weeks ago, or was it 2 weeks? Yeah, before Tuesday. Was anybody present when I gave class a week ago Tuesday? Just a few? Okay, so I can get the same class over again now. I don't have to prepare anything. There's a nice verse. There are many nice verses, 700 in the Bhagavad Gita. There's a nice verse, Ajopi sanavanaya ma bhutanam visharopi sam Prakatim Swamadhishtaya Sambhavami Atmamayaya, that the Supreme Lord, although He is unborn, still He appears in every millennium in His transcendental form. And there, within this, that's from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and within that 4th chapter, Krishna explains the purpose of His coming. Just like I'm sure you all have a purpose for coming here tonight, I have a purpose for coming here. If we don't have purpose in our life, we're dead. I mean, that's basically that. If you lack purpose, if you lack interest in life, then even if you may be breathing or not breathing, you're... Anyway, you get my mind right to say. And so, Krishna isn't a purposeless God. He's a very purposeful God, and He has many purposes to fulfill in each and every one of His activities. As we were explaining, I think, anyway, wherever it was at, that Krishna had to reciprocate with Mother Yashoda. He had to pull the twin Arjuna trees down. He had to fulfill the promise of Narada Muni. There were so many activities within this Damodar Leela. So in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we get this verse and a series of verses that, not to get too involved, but whenever there's a decline in religion and an increase of inauspiciousness, the Supreme Lord appears to eradicate the miscreants and to, what is it? To restore religion and to be with the, to satisfy the devotees actually, and to reestablish religious principles and protect the devotees or satisfy the devotees in their spiritual. I'm just trying to find the verse. As well as to realize on the pure millennium. And my brain's going a little slow, in case you haven't noticed, but it's going to pick up in a minute, don't worry. I was with two children that had the flu, and I think they voluntarily shared it with me. I'm starting to feel my fever's coming up. So anyway, he comes to protect the devotees, and especially it's mentioned in this section that he comes to serve the devotees. Anybody know the name of Krishna as the one who serves the devotees? What is his name? He has a special name. He has so many names. Huh? No, that's the master of the senses. That was a good try. Master of the senses. Rishi, Kesha, Bhaktivatsali, yeah. I was just trying to help you out a little bit. He comes to be with the devotees and serve his devotees, Bhaktivatsala. And so, for me, it's very impressive that knowing my own nature, right, my own nature, if you do me wrong, you'll never be forgiven, practically speaking, right? You offend me to the point where you reject me, you say I don't exist, you call me ill names, you say all these kind of things about me, and I'll just reject you for the rest of my life and just write you out of my, out of the will, or just everything. But yet Krishna is so unlimitedly kind. He's so unlimitedly kind that even though we rejected the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we outrightly rejected him. I've been told by some, it's okay, I don't mind. I've been told by some that when we decide to leave the spiritual world, Krishna comes and tells us, you really don't want to do that. It's not going to be good for you. Even Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, comes and warns us, it's really not a good idea. It's really not a good idea to change this. But because we're so obstinate, we decide, no, I'm gonna give up my relationship with the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Lord knows you can't give up your relationship with him, because everything is created and owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality of God, that there's no way we can give up our total relationship with the Supreme Lord. So he makes it so we think that we give up our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord by covering us with this material body and whatever type of, oh, here we go. Back out from behind the corner, behind the curtain. And the only thing is that this brand makes me sneeze. The microphone will get the glories. Huh? Okay, what was I saying? Catch me up to where we're at. Who's paying attention? Tell me what I said. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, someone's paying attention. So we decide to leave the spiritual world. And Krishna warns us, don't do it, but we come anyway. And the scriptures say it's due to a sense of envy of the Supreme Lord. There's some kind of envy in the heart that, why is Krishna Krishna and why am I not Krishna? Why is Krishna, he's like the coolest one here, there should be some kind of like, changing of the guard or whatever you want to call it. And so we come into the material world, but Krishna is so kind that no matter what type of form we take within this material world, Krishna comes along. What is the name of Krishna that accompanies every living entity? Raise your hand if you know what's the name. What do they call that? What do they call that form of Krishna that resides within everyone's heart? What's it called? Paramatma. Paramatma, yeah. The Paramatma accompanies every living entity. So it's described that Krishna does this, Atma Maya, Ajopi Savanayama Atma Bhutam Nanda Saropi Sampakatim Samadhisna Atma Maya, Samavami Atma Maya, that out of his causeless mercy and his heart. How many of you feel you have a heart in this world? Raise your hand if you feel like you have a heart, some kind of heart. Good heart, bad heart, no heart, whatever heart. Yeah? We all feel we have a heart. So Krishna has this amazing heart. Like I told you that if you really do something bad to me, I'm going to just, you're just out. I'll just write you out of my life. But we rejected Krishna in such a way. Some people even deny that he exists. Even though it's obvious, it's just obvious. You just take a look. Recently I was doing a program and one gentleman came up and he said, I'm an atheist. I said, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Should I say it again? You were supposed to laugh. He said I was an atheist. I said, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. To be an atheist, you have to have 100% faith that there's no chance that there's God. I don't have that kind of faith. But yet some people claim there is no God. They have so much faith that there's no God, that they claim to be atheists. What I usually do is just put like a little dash between the A and the T, atheist. You're actually a theist. You just don't know you're a theist, right? So we cannot separate ourselves from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And so Krishna, out of his kindness, Atma Maya, out of his kindness of his heart, he comes along and then not only does he come along as the Paramatma and reside within our heart and give us all direction. And even if we want to do the wrong thing, he'll give us direction how to do that if our desire is strong enough. Because we have independence. Krishna's not going to force you to love him. That's not his program. That's not what Krishna is like. He's not like one of these, I don't want to call them psychopaths or something like that. Just like I'm American, I can do it. Just like this is a gun, right? If I hold the gun to your head, I hold the gun to your head, I hold the gun, and I say, you love me. Yes, Maharaj, I love you. I got the gun on you. You love me, yeah, Maharaj. I'm the cool Swami. Yeah, I'm telling you, the coolest Swami ever walked in this building, As long as I got the gun on the person, they're going to say whatever they think I want them to say. As soon as there's a choice, as soon as there's independence, as soon as there's an ability to say yes or no, then there is the option. You see, without independence, there's no meaning to the word love. I can force love upon someone, but that's, in some cases, it's criminal, right? It's a criminal act. But Krishna is so kind that he comes with us. And he gives us this opportunity, and he gives us free will to choose to be with him or not to be with him. So guess what, everybody, and I just want to introduce everybody here to this situation, that we all rejected Krishna. We all rejected him. For some reason or another, everyone in this room, including the bugs and the birds and whatever else is in every single living entity in this room, for some reason or another, has rejected the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Now, how does that make you feel? Good? Raise your hand. Does that make you feel good that you rejected God? Thank you. Man, at least he's honest. I think he raised his hand just then because he thought he was supposed to raise his hand. When I was about his age, there was a TV show called Art Linkletter. You probably never heard of it, doesn't mean anything. And part of the show was he'd get like 4 little kids on there about that age, and the title of that segment was "Kids Say the Darndest Thing." In other words, you ask a kid a question, everything comes out. And so his hand went up. So none of us feel good about the fact that we've rejected the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So can anybody give me an idea on how we can now feel better about ourselves for rejecting the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Raise your hand if you have an idea on how we can rectify that mistake, or that, in other words, none of you said you felt good about it, and everyone wants to feel good about themselves. This is called self-esteem, worth, value. Everyone wants to have a, what do they call it? Integrity, a life of integrity. Everyone wants to have that. So what? I'm going to propose it to the audience here. What is it that we can do to rectify the fact that we feel bad about rejecting the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What can we do? Raise your hands if you have something else. Yes, Thomas. We can accept God. We can accept Him. Yeah. Anything else? Please raise your. Sorry.
We should surrender.
Surrender. Okay, that's good. We should surrender. Anybody else have these answers? I'm not having one specific answer in my, in my head. I'm just opening it up. Any other ideas? How we can rectify? Call him on the cell. Yeah. If you got his phone number, please share it with me. Okay. You got to call him up and tell him. Okay. Oh, chant. Oh, okay. Chant and call out to him. Yeah. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, where Srila Prabhupada says that if any person just one time says, "Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, please let me surrender to that," for that person, liberation is guaranteed. If one just, even one time, says to Krishna, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, please let me be your servant," at that point, that person's liberation is guaranteed. Any other ideas? Yes.
Serve his devotees.
Serve his devotees. Yes. If you serve the devotees, then you'll become a devotee. That's a fact. Yeah? Any ideas? Yes. Over in the corner.
I was going to say do devotional service.
I couldn't quite hear.
Do devotional service.
Do devotional service. Yeah. Okay, so what it sounds like is that you already know there is a God, and you're not happy that you rejected Him, right? We're not happy that we rejected Him. So now what we have to do: accept God, surrender to God, do devotional service to God, make friends with the devotees of God. Did I forget anybody?
Direct line to God, talk to God.
Huh?
Call out.
Oh yes, I forgot. Yeah, call out to the Supreme Lord. So these are the symptoms. Huh? Thank you I needed help, I need a lot of help, actually. It's a full moon. I could tell you anyway, one second. So the idea is there that we have a process. What I'm trying to get to here is that there is a simple process to rectify our mistake. If there's some such a thing as called an apology. Anybody ever have to apologize to anybody before? Everybody? Anybody apologize? What's the one word you don't use when you make an apology? I am sorry, and then there's a word you should never say. But. I'm sorry, but it's not my fault. I'm sorry, but it was cold. I'm sorry, but. Or sometimes they say, I'm sorry, but no. That it should be, I'm sorry, and yes, it is my fault. There's these two terms, but no, and the other one is and yes. And it has two different, results that come from that. So what we have here in this arena tonight is an opportunity to reignite. Just like last summer. I don't know if any of you met Braja Bihari. He came here several times. I don't know if you know Braja Bihari. He's the ISKCON ombudsman, conflict mediator, all these kinds of things. So his son runs a summer camp, and it's called Camp Ignite. And the idea is to ignite the spiritual dormant spiritual life inside the children's hearts, is to give them something that they can remember, something they can aspire for in spiritual life. And so we have an opportunity to ignite our spiritual what do you call it, our dormant spiritual love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be brought forth by these programs. Krishna consciousness isn't just, what do you say, do you know the saying smoke and mirrors? Yeah? You know the word, you know the saying smoke and mirrors? Smoke and mirrors means illusion. It's not something that's just kind of like you come to the temple a couple of times, you spin around a couple of times, you go like this and out the door and everything's fixed. It's not like that. I mean, it's not that that particular thing has no value. But as this gentleman here, Mohit said, is that we have to surrender. So it's the word surrender in the Bhagavad Gita, but Prabhupada translates as surrender is papajante. Anybody heard that word pada before? Anybody heard the word pada? What does pada mean? Pada means, like padayatra? Move, to move forward. So surrender means papajante. It means actually to move closer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that means on our side there has to be one of the two fingers too short. What was the two fingers too short? Raise your hand if you remember. One was endeavor and the other grace or mercy. Yeah. So these two things we must surrender. That means we must be moving forward. So then we have to have some type of what would you call it? Oh, what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't want to say accountability. Some type of formula that we can write down each day, each moment, or no, well, maybe not each moment, that's all we would do, but each day, what am I doing to advance my spiritual life? What am I doing today to increase that which I'm trying to correct? So I feel, even if you just want to feel good about yourself, we can do this, right? Just like, I think you may have heard me say this before. I can't say work. I used to go out to the University of Florida and other universities in America, and to strike up a conversation with the students, I would ask them what their GPA is. Anybody here know what GPA means? Grade point average? What's your GPA? Right? So I'd ask them what your GPA is. So the excellent GPA is 4.0. That means you get all A's. If you've taken advanced classes, they may give you a 4.5 because you took advanced classes. So whatever answer they gave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, I'd say, no, not your grade point average. I want to know your God point average. We want to know our God point average. You know, if your son or daughter comes home with straight A, with 4.0 every what do they call it, term this year, but doesn't accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead or hasn't done anything to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their God point average is 0. And their grade point average is perfect. But even if you have a perfect grade point average, if you have no God point average, when Mrityu Sarva Haras, when Krishna comes in the form of death, guess what? You can have all the diplomas on the wall that you want, and if you have no God point average or no God point accumulation, we can even say, change the A to accumulation. In other words, no service record to the Supreme Lord, then we haven't become successful. I don't know why I went there. Okay. So the point that we're trying to get to is Krishna. We're trying to get this all wrapped up around why. Here we are. Oh, Sri Radhika, what's my time limit? Because everything started late. Another hour and a half?
Another 10 minutes.
No, never. It'll never work. It'll never work. I got more to say than that. I mean, come on. It went till 7:30. Okay.
Quarter past.
Okay. I'll try to wrap it up. Now I'm going to feel guilty. Okay. So the whole point is that Krishna is Amamaya. He's supremely kind. He's so kind that he comes into this material world. And guess what he does? He displays his unlimited pastimes. Radha, what is the last one? Radha, Namaste Studamne Spur Adipti Damne. Ayana Zishvasadamne Namo Radhikayai Tvagiyai Priyayai Namo Nanta Lilayai Ananta Lila. Now there's unlimited pastimes. Krishna comes down here. He's not, he's got his own home. He doesn't have to come to our home. Krishna's got Goloka Vrindavan. He doesn't have to come down here. But he comes down here because he wants us to remember what's going on. I remember one time I was listening to a lecture and Prabhupada was saying, Krishna doesn't need your halava. Krishna has halava so much better where he's living. He doesn't need your halava. But you need to offer your halava to Krishna so that you can get to that point where you get the halava that he's getting. I'm paraphrasing. Don't do that word for word and put it on folio because it won't come up. But that's basically what Srila Prabhupada said. We need to. It's a need that we have. It's a need that we have. And so Krishna comes as Damodar, the Lord who allowed his mother to bind his belly with a rope. A Lord, and just now. For me, this is inconceivable. I mean, to say you believe in God means you believe in something that's unbelievable. Isn't it true? I mean, to believe in God means you believe in something that's actually inconceivable and unbelievable. But it is something that's practical and believable. I mean, it's simultaneously in one and different. Because if there is no such thing as God, this whole thing doesn't make any sense to anybody. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The Supreme Lord comes, and he shows by his actions, by his pastimes, what it's like. What it's like to be with him again. So that our heart opens up. The heart opens up. How does it open up? I was just reading, earlier today I was reading a little bit of Sanatana Goswami's commentary on the Damodarastikam prayers. And he was explaining that there's a lot of prayers that where it says that may this pastime of Bala Gopal be always present in my heart, within my vision. May you always be within my vision. May that all these things that the devotee prays for is accessible through the chanting of the holy name, Sankirtan. It's accessible. We have to perform the process in order to get the result. I remember I have a friend, and he was getting his PhD in polymer chemistry. And he was doing all the experiments, and the theoretical chemist used to send down the ideas into the lab, and he was the one that had to make sure that they actually worked. And they never, it doesn't always work the way the theoretical chemists say. And so science means you have a theory, and you have practical application of the theory, and then you get a result. This is science. And this is science, right? And I'm sure you all went to science school. The teacher gives you a theory. You take 2 H's and 1 O, and you get 1 water, right? And so you take it into the experiment room, and you put 2 H's, 1 O together, and you get water. And you do it again, 2 H's, 1 O, and you get water. 2 H's, 1 O, you get water. You repeatedly do it. So if you can repeatedly perform an experience, a theory, then it becomes a proven fact. And so we've seen over and over again that those present today and those previously that took up the process of bhakti yoga, devotional service to the Supreme Person, I'm pointing to you because you brought up devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will cleanse the heart. If you take up the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord on a regular daily basis, if we take up the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, the heart will begin to become cleansed. And as the heart becomes cleansed, the heart opens up. And as the heart opens up, the vision that we want to have constantly, as we've been praying for the last month, we've been praying, may this vision ever be present within my heart. That is attainable. That is attainable by this process of Krishna consciousness. So we invite everyone to take advantage of this situation, because I mentioned last time, there was that, remember who was here last time? Raise your hand. You didn't hear my story about the I told a little story about, if you're sitting next to somebody on an airplane and all of a sudden they got a box and it's ticking, right? You're going to say, what's in that box, dude? Like, what's in there ticking? It opens up and it's a bomb, right? And the first thing you want to do is defuse the bomb. The first thing we'd want to do is figure out how to defuse the bomb. So in the same way, there's a little thing ticking inside of us, and that's called time. And time wears away everything. What we are today, we won't be tomorrow. What we are tomorrow, we won't be the next day. It's funny, because just the other day I saw a picture of myself. I was like, geez, I look pretty good. Then I realized that was 25 years ago. I thought it was a new picture, and I thought, well, I don't look too bad, And so this is going to happen. So in order to stop that repetition of to stop that repetition of that nature, it's incumbent upon us. It's incumbent upon us to take up the process of devotional service. What is the first process of devotional service? Raise your hand if you know the first process of devotional service. Shravanam. What does Shravanam mean? Hearing. In 1965 or 66 actually, because probably it was in America, New York in 66. He just asked the youth, please just hear me. Please just hear me. Just hear what I have to say. Just listen. Just hear what I have to say. And what did he say? You're not that body. You're an eternal spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. You have an eternal relationship with Krishna, and it can be awakened through the process of bhakti, through the process of devotion. Now, I gave a class the other day when I was in Guangzhou, and I asked everyone whoever wants to be happy, please raise your hand. Who wants to be happy? Anybody here not want to be happy? Raise your hand. I have a friend in America. He's a psychiatrist. He's actually busy today because it's a full moon. He personally told me that. He has a clinic, and he also runs a 28-room psychiatric ward in a hospital, and he says it's usually full, but it's definitely full on full moons. And so everybody raised their hand and said they wanted to be happy. So now, how do we become happy? What's the process to become happy? What's the first thing we must know to become happy? Anybody have an idea? What's the first thing I have to know to become happy? Raise your hand. Even if it's the wrong answer, it's okay. Even if yes, what do you have to do?
What happiness is?
Well, that's one thing. What happiness is? Yes.
We are unhappy.
That we're unhappy. That's great. We have to know what a great marriage. We have to know what happiness is, and we have to know what unhappiness is. Yes.
Detach ourselves from the materialistic world.
Which is detach us. But we must know one thing in order to become happy. We have to know who we are. If I think I'm a gazelle in Africa running through the tundra, what I think is going to make me happy is completely different than if I think I'm an elephant or you understand what I'm saying? We must know what we are. So what are we? We're a spirit soul. So in order to become happy, we have to understand ourselves as spirit soul. And then what is the second thing we have to understand? We're part of Krishna, yeah, but we understand we're spirit soul. So now, in order to become happy, we have to understand what makes the spirit soul happy. We're so used to trying to make this body happy that we forget that we're the soul inside. And so in order to become happy, we have to know who we are. And then we have to know what makes us as spirit soul happy. And that is connecting ourselves to the source. Our source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And then we can become happy. Any other thing that we do will not make us happy. Why? Because we're not this material body. We'll think, oh, if I go and make $1 billion, I'll be happy. I was just listening to recently to, what do they call those things? Inspirational speakers. What do they call it? Motivational speakers. And he was talking about a man that achieved so much greatness in life. He was a comedian. Tony Robbins, I think. Was that a comedian? Robbins, some? Is a comedian?
Talking about...
Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker.
Oh, no, not that.
No, you're talking about the guy who played Mork in Mindy.
What was it? Robbins.
Robert
Williams, that's what I'm talking about, yeah. Robert Williams. I knew I'd get it right. Anyway, he had a desire to be a great comedian. He became a great comedian, but he wasn't satisfied in his heart. He had a desire to even have the biggest TV show in the world, but it didn't satisfy his heart. He had a desire to stop being a comedian and become like a regular actor and succeed, and he did. He even won. I didn't know what kind of awards you get for winning. They have Emmys and Oscars, and they have, I don't know which one's which. Yeah, Oscar for movies. Yeah, he won that. But one day, he just hung himself in his own house. He earned hundreds of millions of dollars. He achieved everything he wanted materially. But one day, he just put a rope in the house and he hung himself in the house of where he lived with his wife and children, because his heart was so dissatisfied. So we have to take a lesson from this. We have to take a lesson that no matter what we accomplish on a material level, we may have so many material goals and so many material aspirations. And it's not that we shouldn't have these things, but they have to be connected to Krishna to make sense. What are material aspirations? They're zeros, and Krishna is the one. And the zeros become 10, they become 100, they become 1,000, they become 10,000, 100,000, and I'll stop there. It goes on for infinitum. And so this is the process of Krishna Consciousness, that we get the opportunity to put the one in front. Now there's an analogy of who knows the analogy of the fish out of water? Who knows the analogy of the fish out of water? Well, you're like the one learned scholar. Do you know the fish out of water? The fish out of water analogy? The fish out of water, okay, I get to say it. The fish out of water, this is the situation. We have to know who we are. And in order to become happy, you take a fish. The fish is in the water. Is there a swimming beach here in Hong Kong? What's the name of the best swimming beach in Hong Kong? Swimming, where you go swimming in the water in the beach. Huh? Give me a name. Something I can hear. People's Bay. Okay, whatever it is, it is. Okay, I'm hard of hearing. Hearing aids are $5,000 in America. I'm just going to wait a few years before I buy them, because they're going to need anyway. So the fish is at that beach, swimming around, and he sees the people on the beach. They're playing soccer, they're playing volleyball, they're dancing, they're drinking, they're having a party. He sees all kinds of nice, what do you call them, townhouses or skyscrapers where people live. He sees cars going by. So the fish thinks, well, this is much better than inside the water. Let me go on to the land. And the fish goes on the land. And he thinks, oh, let me play some soccer. So the fish plays a little volleyball, does a little dancing, has a few drinks, gets a good job, gets an apartment on the beach, And I always say the funny part, he gets an angel fish girlfriend, so one of those real pretty fishes with the multicolors. You know, he's got a nice car, you've got, you know, unlimited credit card. Now, can that fish be happy on the land? Even though he's got like a beautiful wife, he's got a good job, he's on the beach, he really doesn't have to, his job isn't even a job, he just gets money for nothing even. No matter what you give the fish, is it possible for that fish to ever become happy on the land?
No, never.
Never. So what does the fish have to do in order to become happy as a fish? Get back in the water. So if we're not this material body, but we're spirit souls, we're like the fish now out of the water. We're meant to be in the spiritual environment, now we're in the material environment. We're the fish out of the water. So in order to make ourselves happy, or to make ourselves satisfied as spirit souls, we have to get it back into the spiritual environment. And that spiritual environment can descend into this material world through the chanting of the holy names. Golo Kera Prema Dan Harinam Sankirtan. At the holy name of the Lord, Goloka Prema, that pure love, that intense love that we have for the Supreme Lord, that is a fountain. It's like effervescence, just like bubbling up with joy and happiness and satisfaction and contentment and self-worth and all the kind of things you go to, all kinds of programs to get help for that you never really get on a material level, is present within the holy name of the Lord. Golo Kera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. It descends down into the material world in the form of the holy name of the Lord, and all we have to do is take it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is just get some. You don't have to have beads. You can just chant. Better to chant on beads. Better to do this. Better to do that. There's different levels. But all we have to do is that. Simple process. Simple activities. Unless you want to remain a fish on the land. If you want to remain a fish on the land, go ahead. I don't know the sense, but there's a nice verse by one of the Goswamis of Vrindavan that if you want to continue to enjoy the pleasures in this material world of happiness, friendship, and love in this material world, then don't go down to the banks of the Yamuna. Because you go down to the banks of the Yamuna, you'll see this. That one's going to make noise. That's okay. We bump our heads every day, isn't it? What can we do? In the arms of the mother, the greatest protector one can possibly have in the world, and one still bumps the head. Isn't that, I hope I'm not embarrassing her. My goal is not to embarrass her. My goal is to make an example that if you have the greatest care taker on the material level, you're still going to bump your head. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna says that even on the royal road, there's chance of accident. And so this Krishna consciousness, it unlocks the true value, and it cleanses the heart. So that understanding, that happiness that is available in the spiritual world descends into this material world, and all we have to do is take it. So those of you who don't feel good about the fact that you gave up Krishna, you can get him back. No charge. All you have to do is give everything to Krishna. Everything means the heart. Give your heart. You keep your job, you keep your family, you keep your this, you keep your that. You just engage them all in Krishna. You serve Krishna. Everything becomes perfect. 2 minutes early. That means I have time for a question. Anybody have a question? Anybody have anything they'd like to ask? It was such a joy to be here during Kartik season, to see everybody again. It has been almost 2 years since I've been here. Planning to try to come more often. Spend a little time.
During the month of Kartik, we get so inspired and so we relish everything every day, and we increase our devotional service and the mood. We feel so uplifted. How do we maintain this after post-Kartik throughout the year? How do we maintain this?
Okay, here comes a little hell, fire, and brimstone. No, how do we maintain it? Isn't there a saying, if you do something every day for 3 weeks, it becomes a habit? Or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that? It's 3 weeks, right? So you do something every day for 3 weeks, it becomes a habit. Don't break the habit. It's become a habit now. So don't break the habit. Realize, just like we realized, see, time is really an amazing thing. I'm looking at my watch. That was, what do you call it? Like one of those things that wasn't supposed to happen that happened. Anyway, time is one of those amazing things that there's always enough time. It's just where you want to prioritize it. There's time. There's time to chant Hare Krishna. There's time to do devotional service. There's time to do everything that you want to do. All you have to do is prioritize it. And I'll give the example that I got from the lesson that I learned on whatever it was I learned it from. You're in a rush. You have no time, and you go home, and the sink faucet broke off, and water pouring out of the tap onto the sink is full. It's on the floor. It's running into the living room, and you're busy. You're packed. Your day is 100% packed. You don't just say, let it flow. Immediately, you stop what you're doing and you prioritize. I can't let my house get flooded. Especially if you're on like the 5th floor and somebody on the 4th floor is starting to call you, hey, come on, water's coming, right? You automatically have to prioritize a certain amount of time to at least call the plumber, wait for him to get there, get him to turn off the water. All of a sudden, you have 2 hours to pick up your beads and say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's just a matter of prioritization. Is that a word? Prioritization, I think is a word. It's just a matter of prioritizing our work, our time. There's so much time. We waste so much time. Isn't it? We waste so much time. So how do we do it? Now we have a habit. And now we know, because this month, we do have time. We do have time for those of us, or those who have added something to their daily schedule, whatever it may, even if it's just one little lamp, coming to the temple and doing one little lamp, 15 minutes. You have that 15 minutes for the rest of the year, or the next year. And next year you'll already have been doing the 15 minutes throughout the year, and that next Kartik you'll add another 15 minutes, so the next year you have 30 minutes extra. And pretty soon you're just going to be Hariboling all day long. That was an exaggeration, but that's how we do it, Shivadika. We just, Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam, it's always increasing. It's always increasing. So we don't have to worry like that. We don't have to worry. There's time. It's just a matter of where we want to place it. What we feel is important. What do we feel is important? Myself, as a fish out of water, I feel it's really important to get back in the water because I'm suffocating on the land. Literally suffocating on the land. A dried up heart suffocating. Radhika keeps nodding. Okay, I'm done. Just 1 minute over. Thank you all for your time and consideration.